What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about forensic sadism. Now, this was dropped from the classification. And actually, when you look at sadism and a lot of crimes, now this is a personality type. And the scary thing about it is, sadists oftentimes can hold jobs quite well. They oftentimes have very manipulative, dramatic kind of behaviors where they could seem like the nicest people in the world, but they truly live for pain of other people or damage, and they can get extremely angry and have tempers. And so the dangerous thing about sadists is, these are antisocial forms of a personality. But the sadists oftentimes go under the radar. You see people like the BTK guy that kind of had elements of that. But sadism has different types. Now you have certain people that will abuse people under their control, or publicly humiliate them, or act cruelly to animals, or any of these antisocial behaviors. But then you start to see elements of explosive sadism, or where somebody's like a time bomb, and all of a sudden, they have certain anger directed at one person, or one thing, or something else. And that is where it can become dangerous, where you would have somebody who hates a certain group of people, and to the point that they just want to destroy them, or they hate a certain person to the point they want to humiliate them and do horrible stuff or whatever. And you see a lot of these elements, especially like if a guy goes into a jail and sees all these inmates seem like normal people, then they find out that he is a sex offender, or he's in the low part of the totem pole, and he's like a petty little guy, and they're all in there for much worse stuff and much more violent stuff, and he's nonviolent. But something about him or his crime, or especially his profile, will immediately draw this kind of dangerous behavior and unleash it on him. And so this is an element of a personality too, where you could have people in a normal profession, where you could have people in authorities or any job, or they could be working in a store and somebody walks in there. They start tormenting this guy going in the store. Where do you think you're going? What are you looking at? Are you stealing something? Open your pockets. And they just totally humiliate them. And they often, something about them is a trigger. And so you may have some sadists who are women who hate men, and they want to humiliate them and destroy them. Some men who hate women who want to destroy them at the same time. And you also have elements of sadistic behavior that are oftentimes parts of mental illness. And that is where the sadist category can also be mental illness, because it's not a complete personality disorder, because there's elements of this in schizophrenia, manic depression, in post-traumatic stress, depression, manic behaviors, even Asperger, autism, any kind of mental condition can have that. Now, a lot of times, these people, you'll have certain elements of sadists that live for this and will find a target, and they're the more disocial types. And then you have people who will unleash their sadism when something makes them mad, and they're the more time bomb, or hard to find, hard to basically see coming, because they may seem like the nicest person somebody ever meets, and all of a sudden in a split second they're different. And so you could see somebody, it seems like a pretty cool boss at maybe the mall or somewhere, and then all of a sudden he becomes totally different. And you can have some people that are sadists that could be a prison guard that turn around and they torment inmates in front of others, and they see somebody get hurt and they don't care. And you have certain elements of the sadism where somebody does not like somebody, and then they really become like psycho on them. And that is a kind of category that, is usually accompanied with mental illness. And when you have antisocial personalities, you have very callous people that will tend to profit off others. But then you'll have people that are antisocial, and they also have narcissistic, ego-driven traits. But then it's personal, it's angry, it's extremely predatory. Then it becomes dissocial, more psychopathic, where you have elements of sadism and multiple personality disorders. And so sadism is hard to diagnose, and it really is one of those things. I mean, you'll know it when you see it, and when somebody is living to make somebody feel bad and seems impressed by that. That is a true element of a criminal personality. It's very hard to treat, because these people will self-medicate their mental inadequacies on other people, and that is extremely dangerous, and these are hard people to know how to deal with, because a lot of them are serial killers that society can't lock away for life. They have to get rid of them because they're going to hurt other guards and other people. And you have this elements of that, like Yamazaki, Danny Rolling, Richard Ramirez. They are unsalvageable pieces of human sewage, and you know where they are. I mean, basically, these kinds of personalities are very dangerous, but sadism is one of those things that can go under the radar. And somebody with sadism could easily pick a job where it works, where they tend to enforce authority. but you start to see reckless and extremely anger-oriented behaviors. And, a lot of the sadists will tend to be very emotional, and they tend to get real quick attitudes, and they can quickly get a huge temper. And that's where this kind of personality is, honestly, should be brought up more in the forensics field, because not all sociopaths have this quality. Some of them are just, they hit somebody and they get mad, and then somebody else turns around, lures somebody into a situation, and uses as an excuse to hurt them. And that's where the sadism comes into play. And you may have people with extremely violent upbringings and stuff like that. And so as criminal justice students and criminologists and psychiatrists, this kind of personality disorder is one of the ones that's important to investigate and be able to see, because you can see somebody, they say, oh, he holds a job quite well, he's not antisocial. No, he may be sadistic, or he may be an explosive sadist, or he may be one of the closet sadists that can look normal on the outside and may not have the reckless quality. And so this is one of the things in DSM-4 and a lot of these psychiatry books that can be very misdiagnosed, and oftentimes people may be able to control it too. And so you may not see this element in crime, and that's basically a very important point in the forensics field. So this is my video. Thank